Within the beautiful mountains of Asheville, North Carolina, is a 255-room French Renaissance chateau. Biltmore, the home of George Washington Vanderbilt. Construction took 5 years. Vanderbilt opened his magnificent home in 1895. Today, Biltmore stands as America's largest privately owned home, a self-sustaining, working estate on 8,000 acres of rolling upland country. Hello, I'm Tammy Watford. There are countless reasons to visit Biltmore Estate any time of the year. The exquisite furnishings, the collection of famous art, the winery, the incredible gardens, and the house itself. But one of the best times to visit also happens to be Christmas. There is no more perfect setting where one can enjoy the spirit of Christmas than right here at Biltmore Estate. George Vanderbilt opened his estate for the first time at Christmas. He invited family and friends to one of the most memorable gatherings in Asheville's rich history. The gala that would take place would not only be the talk of the town, but it would be the beginning of a Biltmore House tradition. On Christmas Eve, 1895, a 5-car private train arrived at Biltmore Station. Passengers included members of George Vanderbilt's family. They traveled along the estate's forest approach road that wound through the grounds. At the end of that 3-mile drive, Vanderbilt's dream of a country estate unfolded before them. Biltmore House, Vanderbilt's escape from urban life and a showcase for entertainment. Christmas morning, guests gathered into the great banquet hall where George Vanderbilt welcomed them, and the festivities began. Biltmore Estate workers and their families traveled by ox team and mule from as far as 20 miles away. It was in this room, beneath the towering 40-foot Christmas tree, that Mr. Vanderbilt displayed his generosity, especially to his workers' children. An article in the December 26, 1895 issue of the Asheville Citizen best describes the excitement of the day.
A beautiful Christmas tree that stood in the banquet hall, causing the liveliest anticipation of the little folks, was then stripped of its heavy trimming of gifts.
The standard was set for Christmas festivities that in the coming years would receive write-ups in many society pages, including those in the New York Times. Mark Twain called this opulent era the Gilded Age, and it was during the 19th century that many Victorian Christmas traditions that we celebrate today were introduced. Even Christmas itself was first observed as a legal holiday. Exchanging elaborately decorated Christmas cards became a popular custom. St. Nicholas, who had always been portrayed as a thin man, was now drawn by cartoonist Thomas Nast as a rotund, jolly man in red. Children hung stockings on mantles or at the foot of their beds, hoping Santa would fill them with an orange and small gifts. Homes were decorated with ribbons, wreaths, and berries. Evergreen roping was draped in nearly every room, and music filled each home. Some of our favorite Christmas carols were written during the 19th century, like Silent Night and O Little Town of Bethlehem. But what really brought the magic of Christmas into each home was the Christmas tree. Kathy Barnhart, Biltmore House floral decorator, and her staff bring the beauty of Christmas to Biltmore each season. And Kathy, tell me how the Christmas tree evolved into being the centerpiece of all Christmas decorations.
Well, it certainly was an evolution. Many traditions were combined together to create what we call Christmas trees today. One tradition is the Christian tradition of Martin Luther being so inspired by seeing stars through the evergreen boughs that he brought some home, placed them in his home, lighted them with candles, and used those as his center of worship for the Christmas season.
In what time period did most folks begin celebrating Christmas?
The Victorian era is really when Christmas became what it is today. The traditions that we celebrate now are founded in that era.
The Victorian home at Yuletide was filled with delight. Christmas came to be a celebration of home and heart, a time of socializing and gift-giving. But very few private American homes exemplified vast wealth like Biltmore. Christmas quickly became a showcase season for Vanderbilt, and the house was adorned with thousands of ornaments and trinkets.
Well, we feel like there was a floral decorator on the staff. We have some documentation that shows on payroll that someone was paid to come in and decorate. Now, whether they were on staff or brought from outside, we can't really say. But the house would have been decorated primarily with the staff here in Biltmore House and with his gardening and landscaping crew, just as we do today.
Like many Victorians, Mr. Vanderbilt had a passion for flowers. Fresh cut and dried flowers were used extensively throughout the house, especially during the holidays. Today, in the winter garden, hundreds of red and white poinsettias are in display in Christmas splendor. Exquisite floral touches also abound at Christmas in the music room. This Edwardian decorative style features white orchids, ferns, trailing ivy, and other exotic plants. Kathy, where did George Vanderbilt get such unusual flowers way back in the late 1800s?
Well, actually, horticulture was at an all-time high. And of course, George Vanderbilt had his own conservatories and greenhouses right here on the property. But also, that corner flower shop was well established by then. Any flowers that we use today, with the exception of a few cultivars of things, were available at the turn of the century. So a man of George Vanderbilt's means could have orchids in December if he wanted them.
Yeah, I saw some orchids on the trees, and also I saw electric lights. Did they have electricity back then?
They sure did. This house was wired for electricity as it was built. 500 lights were wired for the tree. They were called festoons at that time, so 500 lights and festoons were hung on the tree.
So they had electricity and electric lights, but then they went back to candles, right?
Yes. We know that in 1905, Mrs. Vanderbilt asked the staff to please use candles rather than the electric lights on the tree because she preferred that look.
In June 1898, George Vanderbilt married Edith Stuyvesant Dresser, a personable American socialite who was living in Paris. The new Mrs. Vanderbilt quickly became known for her kindness and personal interest in the well-being of the estate's workers. At Christmas, she personally bought gifts for the estate's children and, of course, for her own daughter Cornelia. Born in 1900, Cornelia was the only child of George and Edith Vanderbilt. On the children's trees, Mrs. Vanderbilt hung boxes filled with candies and trinkets. She placed porcelain dolls, white gowns, and carriages around the base of trees. She loved the wooden Tryon toys created by local craftsmen near Asheville and bought them, knowing they would appeal to any child. And this carousel, with electric lights, music, and horses that move up and down, would possibly have been the type gift given to Cornelia on Christmas morning. Christmas at Biltmore was always a work in progress. Mrs. Vanderbilt and her staff handcrafted many of their ornaments. They would often sit together to plan elaborate Christmas festivities for the house. Music was everywhere. Christmas was an event for guests and estate workers alike. Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist Edith Wharton was a close friend of the Vanderbilts. After being a Christmas guest in 1905, she wrote to a friend telling of the Vanderbilt celebration.
Yesterday, we had a big Christmas fete for the 350 people on the estate. A tree 30 feet high, Punch and Judy, conjurer, presents, and refreshments. It would have interested you. It was all done so well and sympathetically. Each person's wants being thought of, from mother to last baby.
The warmth of these Christmas traditions continues today to the delight of thousands of Biltmore visitors. Guests see for themselves the elegant sights of a 19th century country estate. They see how the Vanderbilts lived, especially during the holiday season. There are more than 35 wonderfully decorated trees, hundreds of wreaths and poinsettias, and nearly 2 miles of evergreen throughout the house. Each year, the key to success is preparation. In fact, before one Christmas ends, the floral staff begins planning for the next year's decorations.
We walked through the entire house, looking at the decorations, seeing what worked well for us for our decorating scheme and what maybe didn't work as well as we had hoped. We try to have something a little different from year to year, so we need to begin our planning with that and then come up with new ideas so that our repeat visitors will have something new and different to enjoy when they come to Biltmore House.
The estate's staff uses decor that was popular during the late 1800s. Each room has its own distinct theme. This is the billiard room. It's a room where men sat and talked politics while playing billiards and smoking cigars. Social rules of etiquette demanded that women not enter this room. Our Victorian ancestors were very patriotic. That served as the inspiration for the red, white, and blue decor found in the billiard room. Flags were common on trees, as were die-cut ornaments gilded with gold or silver trim. Perhaps the most popular turn-of-the-century trinkets were the German blown glass ornaments. Wealthy people collected them in their travels and placed them on their family trees. Then, retail mogul F.W. Woolworth brought them to the United States and introduced them to the consumer market, but they were still costly. A box of his ornaments cost $12, which was the average man's weekly salary. Another decoration customary on Victorian trees was the Christmas poppers. When the ends were pulled in opposite directions, they would make a popping sound. Some of the poppers were even filled with candy, and children watched for these on holiday trees. In true Victorian style, anything which could hold greenery or roping usually did. The fireplace mantel is enhanced by poinsettias and the American flag. Here in the breakfast room, the Vanderbilts and their guests gathered for more informal dining. The room was recently restored to reveal the distinct texture of the ceiling. Decorations today complement the ceiling, and fruits and greenery are used for accent. Few places in Biltmore House escape the floral staff's decorative touch. Even the house's many artworks receive a touch of greenery. The table settings are adorned with wreaths that circle the dinner plate. Kathy, one of the things that I noticed is that even the napkins are folded in a festive manner. Tell me about that, if you will.
Okay, I will. It's one of the most popular things that we have at Biltmore House for our guests. They ask about it all the time and want instructions on how to fold this. But first I want to show you what a real Vanderbilt dinner napkin looks like. It's not the size of the ones I have in my home by any means.
Or me either, for that matter.
Right.
That's pretty big.
It's a pretty good sized dinner napkin. You begin by making that center fold and then do that same fold again. Now when we get to that point, we're going to fold our paper airplane. And I do tell people it's like folding an airplane. You're just constructing, but you're using a linen napkin rather than paper. So I folded on the angle right in the center, and I'm going to do that same fold for the second time again. And when we reach this point, we bring the whole thing together, and it's beginning to look a lot like an airplane. Press those folds down, and I do fold these on the ironing board. It does a better job when you have crisp folds. They stay in place better.
Holds the crease,
right?
Yeah.
It does. I'm folding this flap that was created up along the line that was created when we did the last fold. And then I'm going to give a little fold here and take this flap and tuck it into that pocket that was created. Now tucking it in gives you the side of the booty. And then I want to give the toe a little bit of a curl. Elf shoes have curled up toes. And we stand that up and then open up the top. Fold it down. And now it's beginning to look like Santa's elf's booty.
Just like a booty, yes.
And it makes a pocket here in the top. You can see I can place my hand down in there. This is great because we, on our table, place gift packages in there. You can also put fruit if you're using it on your dinner table, candies and other little trinkets in it. So it's a great thing to add to your dinner table.
That's cute. Kathy, we know the men had the billiard room to retire to for their privacy. What about the women? Where did they go after their meal, and what was it decorated like?
Well, the ladies would have probably retired to the morning salon, and it is a more feminine room in a bachelor's home. So we feel like that's probably where they spent their evenings, talking about their household duties, working on making ornaments possibly for their trees at home, things like crocheted ornaments, little boxes that are decorated to hold trinkets for their family and things like that. So that's the way we decorate the tree in the morning salon. And actually, Mrs. Vanderbilt, in entertaining there, might actually pull something from her Christmas tree and give it as a gift to one of the ladies at the end of the evening. So we do have little gift boxes on that tree as well.
What about colors in the room?
Well, again, it is a more feminine room. It has some beautiful embroidered pieces, things like that, that have softer colors. Roses are something that you see in all the pieces in that room. So the decorations are a more feminine inspiration, and we also have a lot of the burgundies that are so predominant in Biltmore House in that room as well.
The 90-foot-long tapestry gallery may have served as a ballroom. The furniture could have been moved aside and the rugs rolled up, leaving plenty of room for a party. The room has 4 14-foot trees, each one holding nearly 400 German hand-blown glass ornaments. They are still blown into molds today, exactly the way they were in George Vanderbilt's era, making them one of the most authentic of all items in Biltmore House. Other ornaments on the tree are glass beads from Czechoslovakia and wax tapers. Points on trees at the turn of the century were very expensive, about $24 each. Pine cones, grape clusters, and reflector ornaments adorn the trees, as well as a pickle. The pickle was a sign of good luck. Whoever found the pickle was supposed to have good luck in the following year. The 3 16th century silk and wool tapestries in the gallery are splendidly detailed. Not only are they filled with Gothic symbolism, but the figures themselves are a rich tapestry of history, weaving together figures from Greek, Roman, and medieval history, as well as the Bible. At Christmas, a nativity scene is placed in the center of the room. There is also an Advent wreath. Guests in the Vanderbilt's home saw that their rooms were not overlooked. The Sheraton room, for instance, was a bedroom probably reserved for close family. At Christmas, this cozy chamber is adorned primarily with flowers, which are grown and then dried here on the estate. Even the tree in this room will contain hydrangea, blue and red salvia, and roses, a very popular Victorian accent. The Chippendale bedroom is decorated in an English traditional style. It includes boxwood garlands, boxwood wreaths, and figures of St. Nicholas. In fact, the tree is decorated entirely with Santa faces and Santa figurines, some blown glass, some wooden, but all having Santa faces. The tabletops in this room showcase various St. Nicholas figurines, which are made locally today from antique pieces gathered year-round from antique shows and flea markets. Here in the library, it's obvious that George Vanderbilt was an avid reader. He began accumulating books when he was 11. His collection grew to more than 23,000 volumes in 8 languages. 10,000 remain on these shelves. This room, more than any other in the house, symbolizes his character and genius. The room's Christmas decor is inspired by the ceiling's Pellegrini canvas. It's entitled Chariot of Aurora and consists of 13 separate canvases. It measures nearly 64 feet long and 32 feet wide. The library is decorated in a Florentine style, using wax and papier-mâché angels, rich textures, and colors which blend in with the books. Angels flying overhead also catch and hold strings of garland. The two tabletop trees are actually connected to make one effect by tying ribbon from one angel top to the other. Wreaths are made from dried flowers and have oak leaves, an important element of the Vanderbilt crest. The railing offers a perfect place to hang garlands and festoons, and the mantel is trimmed with garlands and more angels. Christmas at Biltmore House gives its guests many exciting memories, but possibly none match the grandeur of the banquet hall. It's the largest room in the house, measuring 72 feet long, 42 feet wide, with a barrel vaulted ceiling 70 feet above. So there's never the problem of finding a Christmas tree that's too tall. George Andrews of Newland, North Carolina, has been supplying Biltmore Estate with live trees for 19 years.
And Fraser fir seems to do better in a house for Christmas tree than any other variety of tree that you can use, and it holds its needles longer.
Its refreshing fragrance made the Fraser fir a popular choice for Biltmore House.
And this tree here is about 30 years old. Takes a long time to grow a tree like that, and they're real scarce. Big trees scarce. You got to find them in someone's yard, or especially out in the nursery where you growed for a seed tree or something.
The trees are cut and hauled by truck to the estate, including the one that's hand-picked for the great banquet hall. Along with a multitude of other Christmas traditions at Biltmore House, each year employees from all across the estate meet to take the colossal tree into the house.
Well, what we're ready to do is putting all these poles underneath there. We'll have about 30 guys around it, and when we get ready to go with it, we'll count to 3, and we'll all lift up and carry it to the front door, and prepare our dollies at that point, and roll it around into the back hall.
Tip is the most important part of this tree. You got to guard the tip. If you break the tip, you got to get a new tree. All right, so I'm the tip man.
1, 2, 3.
Tip man.
It's also a treat for guests who happen to be visiting the estate on this day.
Heavy part.
Well, we were pretty amazed at how awesome the size of the trunk and the length of it.
It takes a lot of people to get in a tree this big. It's pretty amazing.
When we saw him doing this, I was like, hurry, let's go up there and watch him do this.
Would this fit in your house?
Definitely not. Probably wouldn't fit in our yard.
Get them going through the door, right?
Okay, you got it from there?
And finally, it's time to hang those all-important Victorian decorations, including the hundreds of gift boxes, just like the ones the children used to open on Christmas morning. Kathy, tell me a little bit about the decorations on the tree here in the banquet hall.
We decorate this tree primarily with gift boxes because we know that George Vanderbilt decorated his tree at the turn of the century with presents for his employees. So we carry that tradition on. Of course, our boxes are empty. They don't contain presents. We also have cardboard cutouts, glitter balls, paper fans, all things that were popular and are appropriate to a turn of the century tree.
And I noticed some of these decorations are huge. They wouldn't fit on my tree at home,
Well,
right?
that's true. This is a 35-foot tree, and no, it wouldn't look quite the same on your tree at home. We have to consider the proportion of the tree, and some of the ornaments might be 12 to 15 inches in diameter.
Everything about the banquet hall is massive, including its 3 fireplaces. At Christmas, they are flanked by 2 large topiary trees and poinsettias. The 7-foot diameter crest above is covered by a wreath of equal size. The large banquet table holds 2 6-foot poinsettia trees, with about 100 poinsettias on each tree. In 1924, Cornelia, Vanderbilt's daughter, married the Honorable John Francis Amherst Cecil. Their 2 children, George and William, inherited the estate. Family interests prompted them to divide the assets. It is Mr. William Cecil who has dedicated his life to keeping the estate self-sustaining. He took his Harvard degree in business savvy and used them to preserve Biltmore House traditions as they have been passed down through his family. During the holiday season, Biltmore House takes on a different color and impressive character at night. Hundreds of luminaries border the lawn leading to the front door, an invitation to savor the delights of the candlelight Christmas celebration inside. Walking in the flickering light of hundreds of candles and feeling the warmth of fireplaces, guests are surrounded by the music of live performers as they drift from room to room. The twinkling trees assume an altogether different ambiance. Just one more treasurable experience offered by the grandest of all privately owned American homes, Biltmore House. George Vanderbilt's Biltmore House is impeccable any time of the year, but during Christmas, a time of family sharing, gift giving, and joyous music, thousands of guests have found Biltmore House to be one of the most incredible Christmas celebrations in America.